Going?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good. Good. Last bout of winter, I think, at the moment. So, yeah. Good. You're good to go? Rock and roll. Okay, look, fantastic to be out here at RACQ at 8 Mile Plains with Peter Fraser from Sarah, very fierce advocate for road safety across Australia, and I'm sure he'll share his story with you today, quite pertinent to what we're talking about. Also to Glenn from RACQ, great to have him with us too. Look, you know, our first responders are really the heroes of our roads. When our car breaks down and we're in a pickle, they're the people who come out and help us, whether they're tow truck operators, RACQ, police, in cases of crashes, our fireys and our ambos. You know, they are the people that help us when we're in trouble. And they deserve to go home from work safely every single day. And so what we're moving to do here in Queensland is our move over, slow down laws, which will come into play from the 16th of September of next month. And what they simply ask drivers to do is when they see the flashing lights, is to slow down to a much safer speed. And if you're on one of the wider roads, to give a lane so that there's plenty of space around either the stalled car or the crash or whatever that they're dealing with, but to make it safe for not just the stranded drivers, but also our first responders who are there doing it every single time. You know, we've been seeing so many near misses, we've seen tragedies, we've seen fatalities from people running into stationary vehicles, and that's the sort of situation we want to avoid in future. So I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to ask people to slow down to a safe speed, give that lane if you can. If you can't, it's just about being at a safer speed, and we're not prescriptive about that. We think by being too prescriptive with a specific speed, that can cause problems as well. So we leave it to the good judgment of drivers, but we certainly don't want to see people doing 100, 110 kilometres an hour right past somebody who's stranded and in trouble, and the flashing lights have made it very clear that there's a problem. So I think these are sensible road safety laws. We've seen other jurisdictions do various versions of them. We think this is the right balance, and we've been working closely with the RACQ on this. Their first responders are in the firing line, let's face it, and they've had a lot of near misses. We don't want to see any tragedies for them, for tow truck operators, from fireys, ambos, for police at all. We want to see safety on our roads, so I think these are really good laws. I urge everybody that when they see those flashing lights, move over and slow down. It's really simple. It's not a difficult one to understand. I know a lot of people already do that on our roads, and I thank people who drive safely and do that. But for others, this is something to consider. Who'd like to speak next? Peter, I think you should speak.
Everyone's got a right to get home safe to their loved ones every day without exception. The road rule that's going to be brought into Queensland, just start that again. Are we announcing it now? Okay. Everyone has a right to get home safe to their loved ones every day, no exception. I got brought into this space after my beautiful daughter Sarah Fraser was killed in a totally avoidable road crash. She'd broken down on the Hume Freeway about 100 kilometres south of Sydney, and the tow truck driver, the NRMA tow truck driver who came to her assistance, and Sarah were both killed by a driver running up more than 500 metres without changing lane, giving them the space they need to be safe. I'm really proud of what's going on in Queensland with the introduction of this this move over, slow down road rule, because it will actively protect those on the road ahead. We've got to ensure that everyone drives so others survive. It's not just about the person at the wheel, it's about looking after and actively looking after all those on the road ahead. So when this road rule becomes law in the 16th of September, we're asking people, as of now, to give people the space by moving over and giving them that extra lane, because they've got a right to get home safe to their loved ones every day without exception. Okay.
Good morning. RACQ congratulates the Queensland Government on bringing a really practical law that will benefit and save lives in Queensland. Each and every day, Queenslanders travel the highways and the motorways of Queensland, and every Queenslander at some point when they're driving or a passenger in a motor vehicle is going to be on the side of a motorway or a vehicle. beside a vehicle in a really scary location. So these are practical laws. They're really designed to save the lives of those Queenslanders and those motorists, as well as the first responders and the emergency services personnel that are there to help those Queenslanders. So sincere congratulations to the Queensland Government. A really practical set of laws for Queenslanders to keep people safe on our roads. RACQ has been advocating for these laws for nearly 4 years, and again they're a really good practical demonstration of safety on the road. Prior to now, it's really been a courtesy, but from the middle of September, it's now the law to slow down when you're passing. When you see any of the flashing lights, be they the emergency services lights or any flashing lights, pay attention and understand there's an obligation now under the law to slow down and provide space. Change lanes if it's possible. If not, just provide a safe space. And what it'll do is it'll provide a much safer location for those people stranded on the side of the roads, which could be you one day, or indeed the emergency services workers that are there to help. So thank you to Minister Bailey, and thank you for a very, very wise set of laws. Thank you.
Every day the police and other emergency services operate on the side of the road. Queensland road users driving fast past these incidents cause a very, very dangerous situation. Nobody wants to be responsible for killing or maiming another person when the situation is totally unavoidable. Road safety starts with every single road user by thinking about their driving, moving over and slowing down when safe to do so. Road safety starts with you, and it starts with me in sharing this message. Please keep safe on our roads. Thank you.
Every day, the emergency services workers go and help the community in their time of need. But we need the community to slow down, to actually keep us safe too. Our work environment is of high risk, and often we work in high-speed areas on roads throughout the road network. With the introduction of this initiative, I believe it will make our emergency services even more safe when they attend these incidents. So if you see our flashing lights in our emergency vehicles and other emergency services, please slow down and keep us safe.
Thanks so much, Barry. Any questions on this initiative?
How much is the fine, I guess, for someone that doesn't obey these laws?
Oh, look, it's over $400 is the fine. But look, I think the main point here is to have respect for the people who are in an emergency situation. And not just the drivers, but also our first responders. We just ask people to think about others when they drive. It's really important that we think not just about ourselves, but about everybody else's safety on our roads too.
Just a big change for motorists. Will there be a grace period?
Look, we'll be doing an education campaign from the 9th of September to ramp into this, so people will see advertising and social media and that sort of thing reminding them to do this, and there will be, I'm sure the police will look at this reasonably in the early periods, but there is the expectation from the middle of next month that people will slow down and move over when they see those flashing lights.
The RACQ, has been working on this to come into effect for years, I think about 5 years. What's taking so long and what has had to happen to get to this point?
Yeah, look, we've been very keen to get this right. You've got to get the balance right here, and some of the early versions that were implemented on this, were highly prescriptive. For instance, one of them was to slow down to 40. Now, if you're in a 100 zone or 110 kilometre an hour zone, we always had doubts that suddenly slowing down to 40 would necessarily not create another problem. So we wanted to be sure that when we brought this measure in, that we got it right and we've done all the homework on it. And I think we have. I think we've got the balance right with this.
Can I just expand on that? You're not concerned that it could cause more problems than it creates?
No, look, I think we are leaving this down to the judgment of drivers in the particular circumstances. Of course, it could be an 80 zone, it could be a 110 zone, it could be all kinds of different situations. So we leave it to the driver to do so responsibly and carefully, and we think this is reasonable. And look, most people understand this issue. I think once people consider it, I think that there'll be a very high level of compliance. You'd have to be a pretty irresponsible and reckless person to ignore the flashing lights and people who are in an emergency situation.
I've got unrelated, but I might grab Janelle first.
Yes,
if that's
absolutely.
okay. At the moment, how how nervous are officers to step out of the car when, when people are flying past them that quickly? It must be, a bit of a dicey thing to try and do every day.
Officers obviously take into consideration their own safety and everybody at the scene's safety when they're on scene. And yes, it is a concern. So we welcome these new laws. And if people, the road users of Queensland, move over and slow down, then I'm sure our officers will feel a lot safer to get on and do the work that they're there to do to help the community of Queensland.
Is it hard for officers to police something like this? You're focusing on the situation at hand with people flying past. How do you catch those people that aren't invited?
Police may not respond initially, but depending on what evidence is available or the severity of what has occurred, police will follow up down the track.
What are your thoughts on some towies reckon that there's already too many orange lights out there that this is just going to maybe just get lost in the noise of orange lights? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that anybody approaching flashing lights on the side of the road, irrespective of what service it is providing on the side of the road, it's incumbent on all road users to use their common sense and courtesy and respect for other people, including our personnel, no matter who they are, and slow down for the situation they're coming to.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, stand up to the mic, sir.
Yeah, actually, can I just make a comment on that last one?
Yep.
We have slow down, move over rules across a number of jurisdictions. Some of them are just for police and emergency services, but the majority now also are for all those tow truck drivers, roadside assistance. And the reports that we've had come back is that when people are actively doing it, it's not an issue of slowing down just for the orange lights or any confusion associated with it. It actually has a positive knock-on effect because those people who are road workers also have got a right to get home safe. And we should also be ensuring that we're slowing down and giving them the space they need to be safe. So I'll just make that point.
In your personal, tragic story, would you like people to keep your daughter's, memory in mind when they feel inconvenienced at that time?
When you consider that people are only going to spend a few seconds slowing down and giving people the space they need to be safe, it's absolutely not too much to ask. And we know, even from over the last few years, the number of people who've been seriously injured and also killed because we're not giving people the space they need to be safe. So, yeah, it's going to cause a couple of seconds of inconvenience, but it saves lives, and it means that everyone gets home safe to their loved ones every day without exception.
Sorry, apologies.
Yeah, Glenn Thomas.
Glenn, apologies.
Yeah.
Glenn, I guess for yourself, you guys have been campaigning for this for a long time. What does it mean to finally get to this point?
Look, this is a real moment of joy, I guess, for the RACQ team, and I think all first responders and emergency services personnel. This is really practical legislation, and it really is about getting that balance right, and I believe the government certainly have got the balance right. It's a sense of protection. For those who haven't stood on the side of a motorway, be it the M1 on a 110 km/h zone, or even the side of an ordinary country road where it's 80 or 100 kilometres an hour, it's a really scary place to be as trucks and cars come past you literally a metre or half a metre away. So, slowing down by 10 or 20 kilometres or 30 kilometres an hour and moving over half a metre, isn't an inconvenience, and it really makes the safety of those people on the side of the road not only feel safer, but actually are much safer in that circumstance. So it's a real day for celebration that these are really good practical laws that will save lives. They'll save the lives of Queenslanders who are reluctantly on the side of the road. They didn't know they were going to run out of fuel or have a flat tyre or a breakdown, and the people that go to save them, much safer and more practical.
Minister, do you mind if I ask? I know this isn't really your portfolio, but we've seen Oracle homes collapse over Queensland's builders. Is there something more that we can do? If it's not the person, probably not the other.
Yeah, look, obviously it's very concerning to hear that Oracle Homes has collapsed. So there is a process there for people who feel like they own money to, they'll be able to contact the liquidators, and other people may be able to contact the Queensland Building Construction Commission in relation to any claims there under home warranty. But we've been left with a high inflation economy by the previous Morrison-Frydenberg government, and it's having terrible impacts on companies, and here's another example.
We saw with Metcon Homes, government, not our government, stepped in to support them. Will we see something like keep them running and stop people from losing their home thousands and thousands of dollars?
Yeah, look, there are measures to protect people in cases of companies collapsing and being liquidated. So those measures will be in place in relation to Oracle Homes. Is it possible for the government to bail out every company, that goes under? That's never been the case. So we do have a process here. We'll work with people who've been impacted. It's obviously not a good situation to see, but this is the impact when you botch the economy. Scott Morrison mismanaged the economy and left us with the highest inflation we've had in a generation, and it's now a wrecking ball for some companies.
The people are stuck. There's been warning signs for a while. Homes haven't been completed. They've been sitting around, no movement. You feel for these people?
Yeah, look, it's hard not to feel, for the people impacted on this. This is something that will be really difficult to cope with, and my heart goes out to them as they go through now a new process where, they'll need to apply to the QBCC or talk to the liquidators. It's a very stressful thing for them.
And you mentioned the Morrison government, but that's in the past. You mentioned a couple of things. I mean, how determined is your government to fix these problems?
Yeah, well, look, of course, the overall economy is something that affects everybody, and I know the new Albanese government is looking closely at what they can do. We all know when the inflation genie gets out of the bottle, due to incompetence in Canberra, that it's very hard and takes time to get it back in. So that's the task for the new government, to mop up the mess left to them by Morrison and Frydenberg. And I'm very sorry for all the people impacted by this company going under. The increase in costs due to inflation is sometimes too much for some companies.
A couple
Yeah.
a couple on the light rail expansion.
Yeah, sure.
Is that all
Go
right?
for it.
So,
Yeah, you go.
Broadbeach residents say that it's damaging their homes, creating cracks. Can they be compensated for this if you had complaints?
Yeah, look, I understand there was a complaint by a gentleman across the road at Broadbeach. It has been looked at, and it hasn't been found to be related to the job. There is renovations going on there, I understand, in terms of this gentleman's property, but the claim has not been proven.
Were you to attend the huge trip yesterday at the TMR?
No, I wasn't. That was for designed for industry.
I understand sources have told me that you were attending. You pulled out about an hour and a half before. Is that correct?
No, look, I wasn't scheduled to attend. I had other things to do. I'd actually done a pre-record for it a couple of days before.
In terms of what happened there yesterday, were you aware that there was going to be disruptions?
No, I certainly was not aware of that. I was told after the fact, and so it was a surprise to me, and I think a surprise to all of our Transport and Main Road staff who were there.
Pretty concerning, there were staff there that had to lock themselves in rooms as these people, hundreds, stormed that office. It's your department's office as well.
Yeah, look, when it comes to defending the right to protest, I will always be one of those people. I grew up in the Bjelke-Petersen era. There was a lot of pretty dark things going on back then, and I've been at many protests myself. But you must do it respectfully, and you must do it peacefully, and that's not what we saw yesterday, and, I'm afraid that's, I can't defend that at all, and I wouldn't defend that.
Sources tell me, senior staff members, that you were to attend yesterday. You're telling me that they're lying?
Look, no, maybe there's a misapprehension there, but it was not my intention to attend, and look, unfortunately, some of our workers were trapped in this room, and I think that's unfortunate to see the behaviour of some has impacted on some of our Transport and Main Road workers.
It's pretty convenient that you weren't attending. In terms of the CMFEU, did you meet with them on Monday afternoon?
I did have a meeting with the State Secretary of the CFMEU, yes I did.
And there was no discussions then or any understanding that they were to attend that event yesterday?
No, I was given no indication whatsoever that that would occur from the State Secretary, no.
Well, I guess, staff there are pretty shaken up by the events yesterday. They've had to cancel them going forward. Isn't that something that you would have attended, and if people now know about the CMFEU planning further protests, were you aware of these ones happening today and tomorrow, that they've had to cancel this event, not knowing about any prior? It's your department. You had no knowledge at all?
absolutely not. And so, I do obviously hear when there's instances that occur of them turning up. I do hear about it after the fact through the department, absolutely. But what they do is their decisions, and I think they should be doing it respectfully and peacefully. That's the way I've always approached it when I've been at a protest in years gone by, and I think we should be seeing that sort of approach. And I think they've got some questions to answer.
So there was nothing flagged in that meeting Monday afternoon that this disruption may take place?
No, not at all. Certainly not.
Can I just finish? Back to that light rail question.
Yeah,
just
sure.
for you again, for someone else here. So the noise and light from night works impacting lives there. How long will it go on, and is there another time this work can be done?
Sorry, I didn't hear all of that.
There's night works happening, and it's causing lights and noise, etc. Is there something that can be done about that, and how long might it go on?
Well, look, in terms of construction work on the project, we do try to work with our local residences as much as we can to give them a notice and to manage impacts. There are some things that are best done at night when there's a lot less traffic on the roads and a lot less people around. And in those cases, we try to, the project gives people as much head up and notice as they can to manage those impacts. And so there's always some impact when you build a big project like light rail on the Gold Coast. So I do apologise for any inconvenience that might occur for people as we do that. And if we are aware of any ways of minimising it, that's what the project seeks to do. Sure, one more to go. Yeah, go for it, mate. You're good.
Maybe you haven't seen, but TMR released some vision of a motorcycle crash on their Facebook page. Have you seen that, or are you aware of that?
Yeah, look, I have seen that, and obviously we want to make the issue of motorcycle safety more prominent. We've seen a big over-representation of fatalities in terms of motorcycle riders in the last year and a half to 2 years. They make up about 5% of people on our roads, but they make up more than 20% of fatalities. So this is something that we need to have a conversation about because if there's something goes wrong on a motorcycle at speed, there's no protection, very little protection other than the helmet and hopefully a leather jacket as well. So it is a worry, and I plead with motorcycle riders out there to ride within your limits, ride within the speed limit, and to ride safely, because if something goes wrong, there's not a lot of protection. Good. No worries. Thanks so much, everybody. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you, John. You're getting a lot of practice here.